Welcome one and all to the LCS Challengers League as we're getting ready and underway for our final week of the regular season. Magical Cubby, are you guys excited?
You made me sad by saying that.
I know, a little bit.
Just because it's such a short season, and I love casting, Challengers League. It's always a lot of fun, and so the fact that we're already at the end, the last week before playoffs, feels like it's just come and gone too quickly.
It truly has. Cubby, you hanging in there, my friend?
It's been fast and furious, man. 150 games have been played so far, but excited to see the conclusion.
Have we gone through that many?
It has been that many, indeed. It is 10 a day, so we got 180 total.
Wow.
By the end of this week, we'll have 8 teams moving into playoffs. Going to say goodbye to 2 of our teams this week, but excited to see what kind of conclusion we have to this regular season as there's a lot of space between TLC and the rest of the teams, but hey, that race for top 8 is going to be really close to wrap up this week.
They're a horse for a reason. Come on, they're the lead horse in the race. Gosh, it just goes 2 and 2. It writes the script itself. But anyways, one of my favorite parts that we've had this split, something new that we've actually gotten, is our plays of the week. And I think it's been such a really cool interaction with the community, getting a lot of the votes in, seeing what our players are pulling off and being able to represent that on Twitter. So we're going to go ahead and give our nominees for plays of the week for week number 5. So go ahead and check them out here and tell me what you think.
Get for the rest of the game. Feel like we got to take it. Perry jumps on in. A chunk Sazel, but Fake God, he's like trying to base, reset, get back in. This ends up finding the most insane angle on the Poppy as they combo it with Meech's ultimate and end up melting everyone on the side of Cincinnati Fear. Really well done by Fake God and Meech to sync up, and everything's gravy after that. No mana on the Ziggs, and it's a 3B for the side of Meech. It's an assist from the turret to help out with the pentakill.
This man is disgusting.
The Rift just wanted them to have this penna.
Yeah. Last bit of damage did come out from Meech.
The Rift just wanted him to have the penta. A penta kill from Meech is a pretty darn good candidate to kick off our plays of the week. Cubby, I know you were on that one, but some fun stuff there.
Meech had a really impressive series. One of his better ones. His Aphelios is to be feared. I think that people are going to be denying him that pick more so moving forward, but not the only good play that we had last week.
We had a pretty incredible base defense going through, and we'll have to take a look at Perry for another potential play of the week for week number 5.
Okay, 15 seconds on Manui. They don't have Baron buff to shove in. They could probably get a Nexus turret before everyone spawns. Perry's jumping onto the wave, trying to stop it from getting in here. Team Liquid say, we're ignoring him. Tristana damage to turrets, to structures is too strong, but the minions have spawned. So members of Fear, they got Mir, they got Kim down. Perry's saving the game as Arrow can't get through the gate. Fear, hold the line.
The base defense was incredible. Kagus was popping off, but also if you got to hear the comms too.
The comms.
Barry was pretty confident there, Magical.
Yeah, that's the thing. I love the Fear comms. They keep posting these on Twitter, so make sure you follow the Cincinnati Fear Twitter. I think it's Cincy Fear. They keep showing these, and it's just great to see because, like you said, Perry is very, very calm, but the rest of the team, not so much. The rest of the team was more popping off. I know what my personal play of the week is. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, not trying to influence Twitch chat or anything out there by saying that the Perry defense was kind of an awesome moment that you very rarely ever get to see, especially a Poppy. But I'm just saying, Twitch chat, maybe you should consider, because we always get pentakills, but we never get a base defense.
Hey, don't trust this man, all right? He's a poli-sci major, and he's trying to use that right now.
Well, make sure you're voting Twitch chat either way to get that play of the week mentioned there and see who's going to win. Is it going to be Meech or is it going to be Perry? But we do have an update on other things that are going on within our community. We checked in with Alk Battery to see exactly how NACL Q number 1 went. Let's go hear what he had to say.
Hi Challengers League fans, it's Alk. Team Ambition and Winthrop University were our finalists in the LCS Challengers League qualifiers, and we wanted to highlight some of the players you might see at the promotion tournament in a few months. As the only Team Ambition member returning from spring, Kachu has been impressive this whole year. Kachu has a trained eye for all-ins, and he loves to play on the edge as a melee specialist. He thrives on champions like Jason Yone while still having those pocket picks like Echo and his Yasuo. We're excited to see how Kachu and the rest of Team Ambition continue to dominate after their first tournament win this last week. Denethor had great performances on Tempest Gaming last year and now joins former challengers Mobility and Sword on this Winthrop University roster. Denethor has not shied away from playing engaged for the team, but he still has a love for those fighters like his Cassante or his infamous Camille. With a new roster from Spring and Coach Artemis of Evil Genius's fame, Denethor and the Winthrop Eagles look to soar into an NACL position.
Getting to hear a little bit there as well from Alk Battery, but some catch-ups on what to really look out for moving forward, and especially now that number 1 is done and we're getting into
Holy
number
shark!
2, Cubby.
Holy shark!
Holy shark!
I gotta say, I was able to catch some of the finals before our broadcast went live this past week, and Winthrop was a team, especially Denethor, that really impressed me at the collegiate top 8. So looking forward to seeing more out of him, and also looking forward to seeing what teams arise in OQ2, because the winner of OQ2 will be directly put in that promotion tournament that we have coming up.
We did get our play of the week, though. It was Perry who ended up winning. So it was the base defense, no influence from Magical over there as well, just saying. But now we got to take a look at our standings. Go ahead and see exactly how this last week can pan out. As you were saying earlier, you're foreshadowing to TLC, the lead horse in the race. We have some pretty darn good horses following them up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's still that race for second place that's going to be very exciting. Obviously, a three-way tie still going on. But I kind of want to shift the attention to the bottom of the standings because Maryville, Team Fish Taco, Supernova, 2 of these teams will have to play in the promotion tournament. Only one of them will make it into playoffs, and that is a very close race, only a game separating them. Now we finally have some separation. For a long time, it was the bottom 5 that were all within 2 games, but AOE and EGC, after a pretty good Week 5 showing, have gotten themselves separated a good distance from that bottom.
EGC is 7-1 of their last 8 games, and AOE has the best record in the second round robin at 8-4. So they have put some distance between themselves and the pack. And also, I love that little edit we have, that red line, of course. It's like the teacher's note, you know? It's just,
it's nice.
If you're above, you're good. If below, not so.
Yeah, and we're going to be taking a look at today's matches here as well, because we do have some bangers here on Stream B, while we have a plethora of games. Today on this one, we'll be covering 2 best of 2s, one between AOE and Fear, and then Maryville versus FlyQuest Challengers, Cubby.
I kind of want to step in really quick because I do want to talk about this first one, because AOE and Fear have implications for standings in 2 regards. If Fear win a single game, they are guaranteed not into the promotion tournament. There's that small, ever so small chance that they could lose every single game this week, and both Supernova and Team Fish Taco could win all theirs. Very small.
Conspiracy theorist. Did you watch that piece on LCS from Jet? Like, were you just cooking from that one?
Because AOE are in a very similar boat. If they win 2 games, they are also guaranteed not into the bottom. So it's like you have 2 teams that need to win these games to make sure that they are guaranteed for the rest of the weekend not to have to worry about the bottom 2.
Well, we're going to take a look at these teams, though. Kicking it off here is Fear, and we're specifically looking at all the comms, all the craziness we've seen from them, but this team has been functioning very well together, Cubby.
Yeah, this is a team that, for me, it feels like they have a different approach and draft every week. And I think that a lot of that has been...
That's a kind way to say it.
Yeah, I think some of that's been good for Fear, and they have been able to catch some teams off guard, but they haven't been able to really form that identity that I really saw from this team in spring. That I felt like was one of their biggest strengths.
And then AOE on the other side, we do have a bit of a come-up, a late-season resurgence, a second-round robin come-up, and pictures! Speaking of the come-up, got some fun ones there. I just love Darkwings with the glasses, man. I can't do it. But Cubby, talk about this roster a little bit.
Now, on the flip side for me, AOE, they do have an identity. They've really figured that out in the second round robin. As I said before, the best record in the second round robin, AOE, they were at the bottom of our standings after the first round robin. The fact that they have really upped their game, so much so that we can actually look at their faces now. That's great, you know.
We got to also take a look at the first round robins, as we do want to be a little bit introspective at especially the way that these teams have grown through this one, and hopefully we'll have that one coming up very soon, and specifically looking at how these teams have adapted in that second round robin. I know I was talking a little bit about it, but here this first round robin coming through Magical, it was a curious start to the season.
No, and as Cubby said, AOE, look at that, at the bottom, 6 and 12 there, hanging right around Supernova and Team Fish Taco. The fact they've had quite the glow up has been honestly incredible to watch this team and how they've been able to form that identity where they can utilize Will. And they always had the strategy of Will, Darkwings, Breezy, all three of them attacking mid lane at the same time. But it feels like they found more than just having to play through mid lane. They can play through bot lane. They can look for these dives, utilizing Breezy and Will. They can send Will, I mean, not to the top lane, let's be honest, because Concept is on an island most of the games, but he's able to do a lot on the map.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really benefited AOE. I'm not sure if we can find the second round results to follow this up.
Yeah, we'll be getting into it soon, but specifically like seeing the change in second round robin.
Yeah, look at AOE going from start from the bottom. Now we're here, right? They just keep on moving up our standings, and Magical, I like how you highlighted not so much playing through mid, because I actually think what's been really clever is they've played a lot through bot lane. Darkwings has been playing a lot of marksman mid and has been somewhat self-sufficient with Junglers just making sure that his wave's okay. But AOE is one of the few teams that to me has actually been using Ziggs in these mages to dive bot. I think that's been a big change for them, and something that I want to see other teams doing. A lot of times we see Ziggs picked, it's like, all right, play away from Ziggs, right? He has all the wave clear in the world. No, AOE is like, hey, Ziggs does a lot of poke damage early. You get that early lost chapter, you're so strong. Let's use it to dive the enemy marksman. They've been doing that to great success. And
then on the other side, I kind of want to focus on Fear. Because looking at Fear, it's not like they've had a bad record in the second round robin either. They're 7-5. There's a huge tie right in the middle. Look at that. TLC, DSG, Wildcard, EGC, all of them at 7-5. Cincinnati Fear have been a team that have been going for those crazy picks that you talked about a little bit, Covey. The Akshan that we saw didn't really have the best showing in the game last week, but it was still something that they tried. They always seem like this team that is willing to do something new if they feel like it's going to get them that advantage over their competition, where they can say, hey, we'll pick the Zed for Shochi. He's done a good job on that so far. The Akshan, if we need a marksman in the mid lane, as well as something that can play through side lanes.
Yeah, and it's also just been about like not only what we've seen on the Rift from both teams, but again, I always look at outside, right? I look at a lot of the confidence that actually has been built by AOE when you talk to them. I know I had Will in for a piece of content. Hopefully we'll see later on this week that he was feeling real good. He was really chipper. He was having a good time. And that's something that I value so much in a developmental league is how you're fitting in, right? And how things are working within the team. Speaking of working within the team, though, Will and his counterpart on the other side, Perry, they are extremely big influences to how these two teams work. And I find, focusing on them is super important, especially when you look back at the track record of this split for them. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up something that I created. You can judge me if you will, but I think it's a pretty accurate description of how this last meeting went for them. Just do it right now. Pull off the Band-Aid. Perry had Will in a chokehold, all right? If you look at those KDAs, that first game, 11-1 on the Kindred. You might remember some clips from that one. Perry also at game 2 on the Wukong was looking really good. But you got the twisting of the ear. You got the holding of the hand from Will. He is not out of this fight yet, okay? He's got good KDAs. Look at that, 5 KDA. That's actually pretty impressive. His KP, you see why he's such a big influence for these teams, or his team at least. And it's been a lot about how he's grown in that confidence through the split. So while this looks like what happened in that first meeting, I'm expecting a little bit more of a tussle between these two. But Perry definitely had him in that chokehold early.
He had him in the chokehold early, but that was early when AOE were struggling, right? That's when they weren't doing the best they have been. I'm really curious to see it now with this form of AOE, how Perry can deal with Will, because Will has been all over the map, really setting up these plays for AOE that I think is something that Cincinnati Fear might not necessarily be comfortable trying to combat against. Say, hey, they're constantly attacking the spot lane, trying to get links ahead. They're utilizing pressure and priority mid lane to rotate around Will at every point of the game that might be just a little too fast for Cincinnati Fear.
But we're going to be looking over at Perry, Cincinnati Fear in particular, a team that has had a lot of big moments, but Perry himself, he wanted to be the general. He wanted to also be the sword of Fear. I feel like he's been making traction in that regard, Cubby.
Yeah, I think for me, Perry, like, this meta, I feel like is actually pretty good for him. I really like Perry's Poppy. The Wukong, I think, is still playable, and is a pick that, honestly, each of our junglers are really proficient at today. But for me, Perry has been a consistent player on a team that for me has been slightly inconsistent, just given that they have different reads coming in a lot of weeks. Sometimes we see Perry on picks like the Kindred, like the Wukong. Other times, it's a week where Perry is playing the Poppy Sejuani and the Maokai. And yet, there is a lot of diversity right now at that role, but I think that it really has been Fear trying to figure out, like, hey, how can we best play around our solo lanes? Shochi, I think he's got like 16 unique champions so far this split.
Yes.
Something ridiculous like that. So
that's crazy, man.
And then, like, all of a sudden we have Manui, who's always played Mage's bot. That's really become more meta, so now they're trying to shift towards that. I just want to see how things shake out for Fear, because this is a team that made top 4 with 3 out of the 5 members on this team last split. And it feels like their chances to make top 4 in a condensed league, we haven't really talked about them in our top half of the teams, whereas last year that was honestly the biggest story that we had in Challengers. So still looking for Fear to really reach that mantle.
Will, on the other side, it's a bit of a boxing match tonight, and you got to put spotlight on both fighters. He has been incredible, finding kills out of seemingly nowhere for AOE throughout this entire split, Magical.
I think that's been the big thing about Will, right? Is he finds these creative ways to start off fights that it kind of forces the hand of AOE, who sometimes play a little too passively. We've seen that in the past, but not lately. Not with how they've been attacking the bot lane. I think a lot of that does come from Will. I think a lot of that is Will being the guy who's kind of leading the charge, saying, we're going for this play. You're either with me or you're not, because if you don't follow me up, we're not having anything that's going to work out at all. And that's something I have really liked about watching Will, not only just in this split, but back when he was with the 100 Thieves Academy, back when he was with Dignitas Academy, the summer child, always coming in during the summer and being that jungler that really would upset everyone's expectations with how you can really play aggressively through the jungle, even in metas in past where it was more calm, when it was more static, like, just the tanks, you would still play things that would be very high, very fast, nitro, gas, all-out gas right out of the gates.
Yeah, I think especially when you've seen what he brought into the league and a lot of the influence and aggressive junglers he was picking, I think it's really cool to see the growth from them. Him and Perry having a lot of the kind of same trajectory and what they're trying to achieve, but different ways of getting there. And we were talking a lot before coming into this one about some of the, I guess, fluctuations, the flexibility that Fear have been able to bring to their drafts. And I think that is something they can play around towards AOE. Been trying to go a little bit more standard here recently as well, Cubby.
AOE, they've really found something that works for them. And I think a lot of that identity has been around that Ziggs bot, which I expect to be a very contested pick in this game, as Manui has also played it 4 times this split. And also, we have seen that Seraphine really rise as a response to Ziggs. I really like that response. And keep in mind, Fear, they are the Seraphine team. Seraphine was perma-banned away from them in spring.
So and it needs to be banned every game. I don't know what you're saying. Like, it still has to be there.
Yeah, it was banned earlier in this split, too. It's not like it's a brand new ban.
Yeah, so really curious to see how this pick ban shakes out.
It's going to be interesting. We're getting it kicked off here for our final weekend of LCS Challengers. Let's go and see how game 1 of our day kicks off.
All right, thank you, Miss L. We will see you on the other side for the Rally Cry halftime show. But getting us into game 1 here, AOE versus Fear. Seeing that Poppy taking away the respect over to Perry and how well he has piloted that champion. You kind of called that out really well, and I think that's something that has been a pillar for Cincinnati Fear, is not only just that pick as Poppy, but you called out that Perry, this consistent factor that really has allowed the rest of Cincinnati Fear to kind of play that fast and loose style with the Zeds, with the Akshans.
Yeah, I think that it really takes a lot of flexibility. I think that we've seen that for Fear. For me, it's just, I value teams as you go into playoffs where you are good at what you play. And I think that that is where AOE has really changed things up from their first round robin to their second round robin. Going from, second round robin, I can say this team has an identity. It's Breezy on Engage. It's Will with a strong jungler that can follow up with that. Whether he is on Engage or on more of a skirmisher like that Kindred that has been so good for him. And then a lot of flexibility between Darkwings and Lynx, with Concept being, that island top laner that's doing his best up there and has brought a lot to team fights. Whereas for Fear, it feels like they have a different approach every game. I know that Philip will usually be on a weaker side champion, but what kind of champion archetypes, or whether it's AD or AP mid versus bot, that's something that a lot of teams have been playing around with. I think Fear especially so, but there's so many just random one-off champions from Fear that it's really tough to game plan for this team to see what ends up happening with them. And for me, it's kind of tough to say, hey, what does Fear really excel at? I haven't seen that same identity this split, and I want to see that moving into playoffs.
Well, at the moment, it does seem that they're just taking away a lot of the meta style that we have seen that AOE have been dominating with in that Kindred for Will, then the double up on taking away Dark Wings and Lynx's champions, which is kind of unusual to think that it's the marksman mid lane, the mage bot lane, but they left open Kai'Sa, and the Rel that was taken immediately for Breezy definitely, I think, is a good Breezy-styled champion, something that we have seen him perform very well on, as well as it has that flexibility. It could go into Will's hands as well. The Kai'Sa, the fact that that's also flexible, and we have seen a lot of regions. You look into the LPL, you look over to LCK, this has been nearly permanently banned.
We have seen Kai'Sa get through a lot, and we see these picks early in draft because of the flexibility they bring, as you're highlighting, Matt Magical. Kai'Sa could go mid. We have seen Rel Jungle be a legitimate strategy that has found games won, so I think that the flexibility early on for each of these teams and denying that Rel Kai'Sa opener, I think, is very important because that makes it so hard to draft against teams. So I think a lot of teams are in the back half of this patch are really trying to prevent that Rel Kai'Sa combo. But we have responses coming out from the side of AOE. It will be that Xayah to counter the Kai'Sa if that does decide to go bot lane. And then likely a jungler for Will answering the Maokai that we have from Perry.
And here's to see what is going to be the pickup here for Will. While I talked about the flexibility that Rel has, we kind of think of Will as a player, and that's not really in the Will wheelhouse, right? We think more hyper-aggressive early junglers. The Sejuani, I even think, is kind of like a fringe pick there for Will, and they have taken that, which I will say, it does have flexibility. Wildcard did play that mid, and we did see that the tech actually reached the LCS as well. So it could be there if they want to grab something like that Viego for Will later on. But at the moment, we have to act as though this Sejuani is going to be in the hands of Will, something that can attack lanes really early.
And each of our teams deciding to burn those flexes in the first round of draft. So we have Aphelios taken that puts the Kai'Sa mid. With the Sejuani taken, that does put the Rel bot. So I expect AOE to take away the likes of the Nautilus, the Alistar, some of the good answers that they have into the Rel, whereas Cincinnati Fear could throw some bans at Darklings to try and protect that Kai'Sa mid.
Yeah, as you can already see right there, Azir taking off right out of the gates. Not a surprise at all. You expect that kind of ban to be taken off of the board.
I'm looking out for a Gwen ban from AOE. It's a champion that Philip... I'm not sure if Philip's played it at all this split.
I don't think he's played it this split, but that is definitely a classic Philip pick.
A couple times. The reason why I highlight that is that Scion's been a big pick for Concept and AOE. I think Scion's actually really strong into Kai'Sa and Maokai. You can have a way to get through Nature's Grasp. Also, Kai'Sa poke. Scion can just stand in front and eat those later into the game. So that would be one of the strays, letting the Nautilus go through if you did want to take that away. That is an option here for AOE.
As for now, we have double up on the mid lane bans. The Cassiopeia as well. APA started it, but everyone else has been copying it since then. Cassiopeia, especially into something low range like Kai'Sa in lane. Not surprised at all to see that, as also something that Dark Wings has played well before. You think back to when he was on Dignitas Academy, the base defense that he had on Cassiopeia, the quadra kill. So it's not like that is something unheard of. But seeing that Renekton banned away towards Philip, the Gwen that you were kind of calling out is something that still sticks out to me that they can easily take here, especially if they want to grab something for Shochi early on in the draft, something that's going to be really safe.
Yeah, it's Nautilus or Milio, and likely Nautilus here.
What am I saying? We already know it's the Kai'Sa. My bad.
No, it's gonna Nautilus or Milio are the two options here. Likely going to be the Nautilus just to have some more engage and have a way to actually cancel the Rel engage. This is a matchup that most of our supports do like, playing Nautilus into Rel. So JJ going to pick that one up, as that will be now his most played of the split. Going back to his days in Dignitas, where he was on perma Nautilus duty, felt like. And him and Perry syncing up from those days as well. Got some Dignitas alumni in this game. Matt Magical, you mentioned Dark Wings. Gotta mention JJ and Perry as well from that finals run, as you did tease that Sejuani being flexible. That was from Insanity. Whoa. And ladies and gentlemen, we got a new answer coming into the Kai'Sa. It's going to be the Zed pick. It is not the first Zed played by Dark Wings this split. Was not able to find a win, but I have been a big fan of this new Zed build that's emerging in solo queue. We'll see if Dark Wings goes it. It's Hydra into Black Cleaver. You have a ton of armor shred, and if you max W second, which is standard, your team fight becomes very big because you can easily get off 2 Qs when you have shadows out. So
also,
I really like this.
Sejuani top and then the Rumble go jungle for Will?
Yeah. No, that's not going to be the case. I like creativity. Good attempts.
I'm trying to be creative here, just because the Rumble is not like a concept champion. When I think concept champions, I think the stat checkers, right?
It's true.
You think the Sejuani, so you think that kind of style. So I'm gonna actually wait until we get to the 22nd, because I wouldn't be surprised if AOE really flipped the script on us.
I gotta say, we came in here talking a lot about team identities. And this is a very different identity for AOE. Concept, of course. Rumble is a champ you can leave on an island, but it's not one of those tanks we're used to seeing from Concept, and a champion that he's yet to play this split. And then on the flip side for Fear, this is a very standard draft coming out from them. We have Kaisa mid, Maokai jungle, Kasante top. Really no curveballs coming out from Fear.
Yeah, are we sure we got the nameplates right here? Because it really does feel like it's the opposite way around, where it's Fear who usually draft this Zed too for Shochi. He's played it already twice this split. I know you said that Darklings has played it too. We have seen that. But this is just really crazy to see that it's the exact opposite going into this first game between the two of AOE and Cincinnati Fear, where both teams want to pick up those wins to make sure they are guaranteed not having to deal with the promotion tournament.
Yeah, neither of these teams likely to fall into our promotion tournament.
Very unlikely, but you know, it's always good to have that cushion just in case.
Yeah, I like that, Mad Magical. Make sure they're good to go.
Cincinnati Fear just got to win this one game. Well, AOE, 2 games, guarantees. But like you said, very unlikely. It really will depend on what happens, because this is the final week of play that we have for our Challengers League season. Then we get into the playoffs. Anything can happen. There's still 6 whole games left to play throughout this entire weekend, Covey. That's a lot of League of Legends still left to go.
It is. And something I always like out of our Challengers teams are when some of our teams do grow and improve. And it really feels like we've had that out of AOE this split, Mad Magical.
I'm trying to look up on my other screen. If we have not seen a Rumble from Concept in his career competitively, so that's like
not in his career. Okay,
not competitively. Yeah, like I don't have one that is on there that I've seen. So this is a first that we are seeing out of Concept, and like we said, very different style. And as a player, I've talked with Concept a couple times before, and this guy, well, he does like his stat checkers, right? He loves his Singed, his Nasus, his Mundos. He also is someone who does like to play new styles, and there's something that people don't really recognize with him, that he constantly is pushing the envelope of what he can and can't do. That's why going into, I think it was last year, he had never played Renekton, and then it was the first time he actually played him on stage, because he just kept spamming him in Champions Queue back when that was a thing, just so he could get that practice, so he can bring a new strategy to the Rift.
Yeah, it was that way with the Gnar, too. I thought his Gnar actually made a lot of improvement. He was even spamming it in CQ and World CQ at the time, which was fantastic. As Concept, definitely someone that we always know, putting the effort in to evolve himself as a player, definitely came in as a very narrow player in terms of champ pool, being mostly a Mundo, some Camille, a Singed Urgot player in the top lane. Definitely have seen Concept change a lot over time.
With Immortals, it was Immortals Academy. That was the strategy they would go for every single time. And it worked, right? It worked for him. And like you said, he has grown as a player. And put up against someone like Philip, who I think Philip is a player that we have gotten a good identity of throughout his career. How many times he's been playing in the Challengers/Academy League in the past. And this guy does like to play aggressively, but this time, kind of biting him in the butt right now, because he is getting a bad end of this trade. He has to flash away. Concept almost getting a solo bolo on him.
Great overheat from Concept, as the movement spells from Philip were already used, so Concept just able to wail away with that mech that was on fire, and it's going to force Fear to respond. Now, Concept is on the weak side of the map. He does use that trade to get a flash and get that wave in safely. Like to see Concept walking down here to try and spot Perry at the crab, as Perry did go for a reverse clear to end on the top side. And Will, seriously enough, ending on the bot side. He does have push early from his bot lane, but you gotta imagine that Will wants to play through these solo lanes that he has, given that's where the melee synergy is at. And also, I think that the game plan here for AOE is to use that mid-jungle 2v2 to get ahead. Zed Sejuani will win this 2v2 hard early. They need to use that to find pressure elsewhere, Mad Magical. So really keeping my eye on the mid lane this game to see if Will can get Darkwing Zed ahead.
This is why I like what Fear has done at the moment. They did put a lot of early vision down, just to make sure, because they understood that a lot of the wards have timed out now, but there's so much control of the red top half of the map that made it so that if Will were looking to play around that top lane, it would have been so difficult. But the big thing, Will doesn't need to play around the top lane anymore because Concept is just absolutely crushing this lane.
I really like what Concept's doing here too. Has the wave pulled, so he's going to try and stop Philip from basing, but Philip will be forced to burn that TP, and that wave is pushing away from him. So Concept, even on his first competitive Rumble game, showing that, hey, he has put in some of that work. As he would get a tank a tower shot.
He's just
real pest. This is great.
He's like, nah, you stay in this lane. You fight me. This lane's in a horrible state for Kazante to play into, because if he wants to try to clear it, try to get it unfrozen and stop the slow push, he has to play into the Rumble bot lane. We're seeing a little bit of action. They even got the exhaust early, looking for the feather call, but JJ's too low. It's going to be first blood for Lynx. The flash away from Breezy to survive. It's Manui in the middle of a lot of feathers. He'll be fine for now, but AOE come out benefiting from the bot lane play.
Rel just has too many stats early. We're going to get a quick replay on this as Lynx. Looks like both marksmen base. The supports did not. Lynx does ding level 4 off a 1 creep here, or off the kill, I should say.
Yeah.
Which helps him, but even through that exhaust, able to pump down the Nautilus. Just too many stats on the Rel compared to the Nautilus, and that game plan for AOE, we talked earlier about putting resources in the bot lane, getting bot ahead. Looking pretty good as Will's going to come help shove things out. Perry's here. Will.
Rude and looking for the re-engage. That's a lot of damage. AOE overstep, not respecting the tree.
Flash by Perry. Props to Will for getting that Aftershock off. If he didn't do that, I think he does go down. So that cued at make sure the Aftershock did proc. Really well done. But hey, nice play by Perry to make sure that his bot lane is okay. As, of course, he did do that reverse clear. So after the Raptors, taking that again, makes his way down to the bot lane, has an impact, skipping over some camps, and that impact's positive enough where it's actually going to net Fear their first neutral objective. So really nice play by Perry to skip over his camps and make sure this dragon goes over to his team. Helps out his bot lane, got a neutral. Well done.
Well, does it actually? Because right now, AOE are looking to contest this. Will's on the other side. It is going to be smite secured.
Watch Darkwing.
Darkwing slowed down by the saplings. He wants to get onto Shoji
really
onto the backline, but he's going for JJ instead, and he's got a lot of damage onto Perry, ripping him apart, but he dashes forward, still low, finally takes down the tree, the flash away, but Shoji takes back a kill, 1-for-1 at the moment, the flash away to survive, but he gets hit by the permafrost, the flash from Lynx, with the feather recall to make sure Sochi also will hit the dirt.
Love the aggression from Lynx to go over the wall, knowing that Shochi burned both his ult and flash. That's a freebie for Lynx. And a good turn from AOE as they utilize the strength of that mid-jungle duo early to catch Fear off. Fear, yeah, they're trying to get this neutral down for free, but AOE was able to get here in time. Breezy just being a little bit goofy around the dragon, buying a little bit of time. Darkwings, though, is the big difference. He has level 6. He is here at the play. Synergy with Sejuani is nice, but the damage from Zed with the Tiamat, the shadows early, it's pretty significant. As Darkwings, a little bit of goofiness there with how he used the shadows. I think maybe was able to save that R shadow to get out a little bit later because stayed in the fight. But not going to be the case. Instead, does go in, does sacrifice himself to go down. And it is a positive trade for AOE, given that Lynx was able to get back to this play.
A positive trade, 1-for-2 in favor of them in kills, but they did lose the dragon. That is going to be the big thing there. So it wasn't like they gained everything from that. Fear still in a decent position where they are starting to get closer towards those item spikes they really do need for some of their members. But as you called out, I think it is good plays from AOE to get ahead and look at Lynx right now. We talked before in draft how we've seen AOE's identity really be about playing through bot lane. Well, the 2v2 already worked out well for them. Lynx and Breezy were winning that on their own. And then that flash forward from Lynx to get a second kill in this game. This Xayah is already off to the races.
And it's one where you gotta imagine that Fear's gonna make a play to shut it down as Lynx now has no flash. Perry
looking for him as well. They tag him. No flash, no escape. With the exhaust too, he is dead. No way out of that one. It's gonna be shut down gold to gift it over to Manui.
Well done by Fear. Perry hit 6 off that. So he's at least gonna chunk Breezy, but he's just gonna look to take away camps. And I love this early commit from Fear. They spotted AOE doing that Rift Herald. So instead of opting to contest, Fear says, all right, you know what, we're late to that play. It's gone. Let's make a play elsewhere and take that Xayah off the map that you mentioned. Mad Magical has already gotten ahead early, so good focus from Fear.
Exactly. Get it and get that kill, get the shutdown, And now I have to shift the conversation over to Manui. Because look at this. He gets the kill, gets the shutdown gold, and now has 20 CS over Lynx. Fear have got themselves set up after a couple series of unfortunate events from the top lane where they lost Flash out of Philip early, the bot lane 2v2 where they were losing. Now, they're relatively even, and their Aphelios is actually probably a step ahead of Xayah.
Yeah, I think Perry deserves a lot of credit for that. Not just the revisit gank we just saw, but mostly that first one where Will was trying to get that wave in. Perry able to show up, bot, get a positive play, and a kill over to Manui. Actually protected that wave state, so AOE couldn't get that in, and that's how Manui is up so much early. And that's going to be important because that's some pressure for Fear. We talked about how AOE, they want to utilize this Zed Sedge early to find 2v2 and snowball that lead elsewhere, likely bot lane. They haven't really hit on the win condition for Fear, and that's because Fear's win condition, it's later in the game. They have the scaling from the Kai'Sa, from the Aphelios. They should be able to deal with the melee-heavy composition of AoE rather well later in the game. So, the fact that Fear has a leg to stand on this early on, really good for them.
Having that exhaust as well for JJ really is going to be something that will continue to scale up in the game and get worse for AoE. Normally, you don't talk about, like, summoner spell scaling, right, Covey? It's like kind of weird to say, but the fact that it works so well at denying Darkwings that kill to start off the fight, especially if he's able to jump onto someone like Shochi or Manui early into the fight, is only going to make it that much more difficult as we get closer to the full-out brawls between the two teams.
And in these first few brawls, this Zed build, I don't want to fool, I like the scaling of Fear's comp better. I think the poke Shochi and Perry will be really deadly for AoE to deal with. I don't want to fool anyone though. Zed in a team fight with this build does a lot. You get a lot of damage down with Zed as you get multiple spell rotations down with these shadows. So I think Darkwings, he is set up for success. I really was talking about that mid jungle duo early on in this draft, Mad Magical, and I want to see if Darkwings can try and cash this in with Will, as Will currently posturing with Shelly. Will drop it as the dragon spawns. JJ Dredgeline goes wide as Breezy.
It's done, and the follow-up on to Perry. That's a lot of damage with the death mark on top of him. But they already got the kill on the Darkwings with a pop back. Trade 1-for-1 at the moment, but look at Breezy getting chased down by Manui, slowed down by the sapling so they can get the kill. It's a double kill now for Manui, but Lynx is a lot of damage, but he's pulled back in. Golden is Manui. Where's the feather recall to pick up the kill, but he doesn't have it. He has to wait it out. Instead, it's Philip underneath the dirt, all out, taking Will right back into the fight, and then jumps on to Lynx, the flash over the wall. They got the kill, and Philip makes sure they take down Lynx.
Big fight from Philip. That Cassante ult was wonderful, as not only was he able to take down Will, position himself to get on the Xayah immaculately from Philip, as his Cassante continues to be big for Fear. And this fight, I thought it was a decent start for the side of AoE, but that exhaust that you highlighted, going down on the Darkwings, he gets locked up by Perry, so it's a 1-for-1 trade. Fear's fine trading out Perry for the mid laner of AoE. And then this is where things get a little bit hairy, because Manui trying to take out Breezy, ends up getting up, but does have to go golden, as it was a very good fight from Lynx. If that connects, I think Manui goes down to one more Kraken proc, able to dodge out of that, and then Philip, what a great play from him. Using the Cassante all out to make sure that Lynx was his, follows up on the flash over the wall. Get those Cassante Showmaker spams going in chat, guys, because that looked pretty unbalanced there from Philip, but really good use of the ult to reposition himself and make sure that the marksman at AoE was under pressure.
And going back, if we were kind of trying to highlight Philip, but he wasn't doing so well in lane, this is what we have expected from him. This player, where it's not necessarily just the laning phase that you're like, okay, this is when the guy pops up. It is always how he looks at these team fights, how he's able to set up the rest of his team. That all out, like you said, using that just to gain distance towards the Lynx so he can pick up that kill as well, is these heads-up plays that we saw back when he was on FlyQuest Academy, and then why a lot of people looked at him as being like the next coming top laner that everyone's got to talk about.
The consequences of that play, look at Manui on the scoreboard. I mean, 3-0-2. He has a Kraken Slayer that's already halfway to a Gale Force to Shochi. He's going to go down here.
But this time does not have the exhaust, so the death mark works a lot better, and Perry found himself in a bad spot. But look at JJ on the other side with the dredge line, not doing anything. Instead, it's taking him out of danger because the double kill is already picked up by Darkwings.
Good buffer from JJ, and you can see the power of the Zed here as Will and Breezy show up mid. They find the 2v2 as that's big kills going over to the side of AOE. Again, they need to utilize the power of this mid-jungle 2v2 now in the game, Mad Magical, to build a lead to get elsewhere as they cut into what was a 1k gold deficit, now a small gold lead for AOE. They're going to need a few more plays if they want to really keep up with Fear's late game in this one.
It kind of feels like right now, Cubby, the story between these two teams has gone back and forth in this game, and the gold graph perfectly exemplifies that. It is all over the place. That is the most chaotic gold graph I've seen at 14 minutes into the game.
I mean, it's Challengers, baby. Come on. We have this every day, Mad Magical.
Yeah, but not necessarily so all over the place, where it just kind of it looks more like a Richter graph. Like, we're measuring some earthquakes going on right now.
Well, if anyone's going to be quaking, it's going to be whoever faces Manui, as he is the fed one on the Rift. Sure, if you flash the gold draft, Manui would be at the top of it, as currently we've yet to have a turret fall. Manui's trying to change that in the bot lane as some chip damage.
Look at that.
Breezy.
Look at that lead he has over Lynx right now.
That's not bad. A lot
nearly...
of it...
What's up?
No, you go, Mad Magical.
I was going to say just nearly 2,000. That's all I was going to say.
Come on, I didn't want to talk over you there. I try not to be rude.
See, that's your first problem. You always got to... When it's me, you just got to talk over me, because otherwise I'll just talk forever.
Oh. Alright, I'll talk over the first brick then. How about that? It does fall over to the side of Manui, who is likely going to have that Gale Force ready in his inventory when he does hit the base here. That is very scary for the side of AOE. Exhaust is up still for JJ too, so if Dark Wings goes in, that initial burst from the Zed will be diminished if JJ is able to connect that onto Dark Wings, which is going to be the target. And that means that AOE is going to get a little bit creative, try and fight away from the Nautilus.
You have to make sure that Dark Wings is going to be on this perfect position, especially to get on top of Manui, since you look at what Jochi has, another good counter towards Zed. Always has been, always will. That Zhonya's Hourglass has been completed early in the game for Kai'Sa.
Yeah, so this does delay the other items for the Kai'Sa. Of course, Shochi will scale, but it will give him some protection in this part of the game. Also, Shochi, his job is going to be to match Zed in that side lane. I don't think it's a bad buy. But on the flip side, Zed, I did tease the Hydra Black Cleaver build. It's actually going to be Mythic second item in the Duskblade. I expect Black Cleaver to come in next for the side of Dark Wings, especially seeing Zanya's and a Frozen Fist on the side of Cincinnati Fear. As for me, that's when Zed and this build really starts to take off, because the amount of ability haste that you get is extraordinary, and you can start pumping out 2 Qs for every shadow that you drop. You gotta pause, because Dark Wings, I gotta get out of this one, buddy.
There's no way. He's pulled back in. They even got everything focused on him just to try to take him down. It's going to be shut down for Philip.
Depth charge even used too as Fear. They're really hating on the Zed there.
3 ults were used, but as he kind of called out, that's a lot that was focused there into the bot lane. And what do they lose on the other side? AOE take down the tier 1 mid.
It's really not that bad for AOE. They get a neutral or they get a turret off this, and Darklings has that empowered TP. So if he wants to fight the upcoming neutral objective, he can get there in time. And the Zed ult really low cooldown at this point of the game, given the ability haste and the fact that you are just Zed in the earlier stages of the game. So that ult's going to be up faster than that depth charge, than that all out. And also, Kai'Sa as well won't have access to ult for this fight. So if AoE wants to take it, big ult's missing for the side of Fear, and a potential for AoE, especially with these guns from Manui. I'd love to see AoE fight this. I feel like this could be a good fight for them.
3 ults down for Fear, only the 1 of AoE, and it's about
Breezy
to come
concept.
on cooldown. Looking at Breezy, waiting for him to get into this back line. They've got the tag, and that's going to be the equalizer trying to split up the fight, but it's not going to do enough. Breezy took way too much damage because they nearly killed back for him. But look at that, still harassing. AoE are not done. They don't want to just give up this objective, but the fact that Breezy can't join easily is going to make it really difficult. Despite this fight, it goes over to Perry. Now the fight on afterwards. Look at Manui, though. Jumped on the Magnet Storm. It did a little bit. They got the stun, but the cleanse out. He's going to survive. They picked up Brill. They're looking for more. The pull back. It's Lynx up in the air, still alive. And Shochi tries to fight back. He'll take one down. A messy fight all across the board, but it's looking like AoE. They're cleaning up Philip over the wall, barely surviving. A 3-4-4 in total.
What a wild fight. And when I look at AoE's comp, I'm thinking about Breezy And the equalizer from Rumble syncing up. That equalizer went out early. It didn't take a lot of health away from Fear as they had the Radiant Virtue from the Maokai to answer with the Nature's Grasp. So then on the flip side, I mean, at least Darkwings is able to get on the backline. He does eat the exhaust, but some nice movement from Darkwings to get out. As you can see, he's at the point of the game where you are able to get 2 Qs off every time you put that W down, so that damage on the second Q from Darkwings was critical over onto the side of Fear. Again, it's really where the strength of the Zed build comes in. The small team fight win for AOE, but overall, if you're Cincinnati Fear, you still walked away with Soul Point, and the fight was close enough where you have gold and you have the scaling advantage. So I think that Fear are still pretty happy with where this game's at.
Yeah, they're not going to complain at all. 500 gold, that separates the two teams, and as you called out, the fact they're within Soul Point, and it's a Hextech Soul on top of it all, a very strong soul to get for the team. When you have a team comp that kind of wants to kite back, everything seems to be going Fear's way, even if the fights didn't necessarily haven't.
The neutrals have, right? That's got to count for something. It's adding up as AOE. They got to take every single fight around the Dragon they have left. Now, they are a team that wants to fight earlier in the game. But still, really scary as it's only a small gold lead for AOE. And the most important thing for the side of Cincinnati Fear, all the gold they have is on Manui. And he continues to keep himself ahead of Xayah significantly in items, almost up a full item in that inventory.
Yeah, and look at the gold. He's got the most gold by a long shot. Only Darkwings is close to him, and as the assassin, that is nice to have where you're close to the Sibelius, but you still have to deal with everyone trying to get on top of Manui. And they've done it. That's the combo you're calling out, Cubby. They layered it perfectly as AOE now in a bad spot, with them all out coming in. They will take back the links, but they lost the bot lane for it.
Great all-out from Philip. That saves a Baron from going down, but gotta praise Darkwings for the start of that fight as well, as Darkwings was fantastic, using the shadows to dodge out on the initial engage from Fear. It was actually able to get on the backline where exhaust wasn't available for the side of JJ and Cincinnati Fear. That's the damage the Zed can do, especially early on in a fight. Well played from Breezy and Darkwings, as AOE find a little something for themselves in a 1-for-1 trade. And I think importantly, take Manui off the map and get a shutdown on him, as Manui really big in this game.
It's pretty much, this game is about whether or not Manui dies early in the fight or not. And the fact that he died there early, it meant AOE win this one. And you call out
look at this from Darkwings.
But I also want to look at Breezy and also look at Concept. They layer up the ults this time around in that really nice tight corridor.
Very well done. As I do also want to praise Philip. Guys, if Xayah is up, this is a Baron start in a 5v3 for the side of AOE. Philip using that ult to take down the Xayah right before Xayah had that ult available again. Very important for the side of Cincinnati Fear, as that could have really shifted the power of this game back to AOE instead. It's only a small gold lead for AOE. A team fight that to me is easier to execute for the side of Cincinnati Fear. And a minute and 10 away from that soul being available for Cincinnati Fear as well. So AOE are going to be forced to fight into this Maokai, and props to Cincinnati Fear. They've done a great job of setting up this bot river already.
I also do want to keep in mind the stakes of this game. Well, not the most important. This game win for Cincinnati Fear guarantees that they are in the playoffs, and they do not have to even worry about the very slim chance of playing in the promotion tournament. While AOE, both games would guarantee them that same cushion. So for both teams to fight so valiantly for the spot, so close these team fights, and now we're getting close to what could be Hextech Soul for Fear. AOE have to play around this bottom half of the map. They can't give over such a powerful soul.
They do. AOE, though, they didn't clear out that control board in the pixel brush while they had control over this part of the map, so that's going to hurt them a little bit in the long haul. As Concept gets the bad news, realizes that he's spotted. Now he is here, and Fear have to respect the combo coming out from Breezy and Concept. So a little bit of posturing. Fear's going to play back, try and lead on the Saplings and the Void Seekers from Kaisa and Maokai. That's a really good one that connects. Darkwings does have that powered TP if he wants to get back into the fight, but he might be forced out here.
Gonna be forced out, and Chochi still trying to harass the members of AOE so they can start up this dragon. Like I said, soul point potential. Oh, Philip barely not stopping the recall. That is a deep TP. That is very far away, and it's 50% on the dragon. Darkwing has to book it. Look at Breezy. He wants to get into Manui to get into the backline, but he can't even get there. It's going to be secure. The soul's there for Fear. And what happens afterwards? AOE get ripped apart. They got the damage, but Darkwing couldn't pop Manui in the backline. And when you can't pop the 80 for Cincinnati Fear.
Great play from Fear is that has to secure the game for them. That's going to be Baron now to follow up, and Fear, the neutral objective, control early, and Perry's play around bot. It pays off tenfold as they're able to take the first 4 dragons and win the fight out afterwards. As, yeah, Darkwings, he wasn't able to ever get an angle down. Given the poke from Fear, he was forced to TP bot where he's spotted. Fear gets a front to back with a Maokai, with an Aphelios. Cassante Philip running great interference here in the middle of the fight. And it's just a 5-0 wipe for the side of Cincinnati Fear. Well played by them to protect Manui, who had great guns for this fight. And Fear made this one look easy. And props to Fear. I feel like this is a much more cautious draft from them, closer to playoffs, and it's paid off. It's been a much more controlled look for Fear, as they've done a nice job playing as 5 this game, that Magical.
With that afterwards, because it was a clean ace, they get the Turo Baron buff to boot. Huge swing now, where the game was nearly dead even slightly favoring AOE in gold. It's now 2,000 gold in favor of Cincinnati Fear with the Hex Tech Soul as well. Look at that. Again, it's the Richter graph going on back and forth. Man, that was close from concept. Oh, what? No, come on. That's not fair.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, Kaisa, I did say things might be delayed if you stop for Azanias, but guess what? That Ludens is online, and Shochi, he's hitting like a brick house as concept falls. Again, very difficult game to play from AOE now, as AOE weren't quite able to take away any of the dragons with their early power they had mid-jungle. And still, really props to Perry, I think, for getting involved in that bot lane. It was a nice 2v2 kill from the side of AOE, but really punishing the back half of that, I think, was the big game changer for Fear, as Manui got a big lead bot man Magical, and Fear didn't look back with that. So using that to really lean on the Aphelios and make sure that he was able to survive the mid-game onslaught of the Sejuani Zed ended up being very good for the side of Fear.
And as you talked about before, the scaling for Fear, it is fully there. 4 items for Manui. He already has that Guardian's Angel beforehand, now Maw of Mount Mortius, just to make sure that nobody is doing any damage to him. Nobody's going to kill him fast enough before he's going to absolutely pump out the damage.
And when you have a lead, might as well go defense. He still has as much damage pretty much as Lynx, and man, he has a lot of defense here.
He has an item and a half above Lynx. An item and a half.
Too.
Yeah, that is absolutely monstrous, this lead that Cincinnati Fear have for their marksmen.
I mean, this game's wrapped up. Fear is just trying to take this game away from AOE before they have a chance to coin flip the Elder.
Shochi just went in for that one. He's trying to tag Darkwings and get another snipe, but that time it was body blocked by Will, but it did the job. It got Darkwings out, and with the Turo Baron buff still on the heads of Cincinnati Fear, they're knocking at the door of AOE.
Shochi showing why teams are playing like Cassio Zed into Kaisa, because if Kaisa gets to this state, yeah, she's pretty damn good as Breezy. Breezy can have a thick one here. Yeah, this could be big.
But the last time he tried this as well, it didn't work out so well.
Might as well, though.
You're
it's a Hail Mary.
8,000 gold down nearly. It is the Hail Mary, and here comes Breezy chugging along, but he realizes that the people that he wants to go for aren't there. It was only Philip. He's like, hey, you want to engage on me? I'm the tank. I'll take you on any day.
All right, well, that misses, and guess what doesn't? The rest of the Void Seekers coming out from Shochi as the onslaught continues for the side of Fear.
You jinxed that one, but it doesn't matter because the job's done. The Turo Baron buff has opened up the base of AOE as another Void Seeker there connects, and that's going to be the re-engage, nearly taking the kill. And even though Darkwings used the mark, it was not nearly enough to stop Fear from taking this game. All they had to do was get a couple more kills onto the carry members of AOE before escorting these minions into the turrets.
These are the types of looks I want to see out of Cincinnati Fear. I think it's a much more cautious game plan, leans on a lot of the strengths of their individuals, and it pays off in a great team win.
They're back to the KDAs right now. This is a typical Cincinnati Fear style. Right at the end of the game, make sure to get the KDAs looking as pretty as possible, as Breezy also says, you know what, fine, I'll give you one more kill, end the game already, make sure you're guaranteed into the playoffs, Cincinnati Fear.
Welcome back to playoff Cincinnati Fear, as it was a team that made waves in spring. Everyone had them projected to be bottom 4, likely team to actually be relegated out of our provisional teams in spring. Fear ended up not only toppling all the provisional teams, but making top 4 out of all of the Academy or Challengers teams as well in our Challengers League, and it's great to have them now booking their ticket to playoffs with this win today.
Yeah, and we get to look at the post-game breakdown as well between this game of AOE and Cincinnati Fear. Like I said, it's close at the beginning. Look at that. For a long time, the gold is nearly dead even, all the way until that one fight. It's literally that one fight around Dragon.
I feel like all that damage from Shochi came like after he did Ludens,
Yes.
or built Ludens. It had to be like about half of it, you know, afterwards. Those W's started clapping as Fear. Hey, this is a great look from them. Again, for me, Fear, a team that I think like middle of the standings, I kind of expected them to be here, but also in a way, given how good their last split was, I expected a bit more out of Fear. And I expected really more games like this where they have a solid game plan. They play as 5 and they beat teams, not only on the map, but also in the team fights where Fear really excelled in spring. For me, this was a really good look for them in this game, and glad to see them in playoffs.
Yeah, it's great to see them back in playoffs, and we'll see how well they are going to do in playoffs. But they still have another game today as well as the rest of the weekend. We're going to toss to a break. When we come back, we'll bring back Mazel for the Rally Cry halftime show, so make sure you don't go anywhere.
The LCS Challengers League is brought to you by Turo, the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. Find your drive.